Today we have Warren Badenski. I'm so excited. This is Warren's second time coming here, although it might be the first time that you're seeing him here on the Bitter Wolf channel. He'll be in the Horror Mosaic very soon. But thank you, Warren, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me again, or first time,
Yes.
whichever way this comes out.
Yes, and so last time you were here, we talked a little bit about your career in general, but today we're going to be talking about your newest feature film, Dead Name. And I got a chance. Thank you for giving me a chance to watch this movie this week. It was really great. It has a lot of different elements of horror, thriller, mystery. I think there's a lot of things that will appeal to a wide variety of people in Dead Name. So, well, let me give a little synopsis of what Dead Name is for everybody, and then I'll let you talk about it a little more. In Dead Name, we have a character named Nia, and she's a retired hitwoman, and she's called by her family, who are, let's just say, they don't operate in the most legal of operations, and they need her to commit one final job for them. So, do you want to add more to this, Warren?
Uh, how do I usually say this? Yeah, she needs to kill her brother,
Okay.
Ian, who's wronged the wrong people, and yeah, she does. She gets stalked by other hitmen and her like literal nightmares.
And at some point, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to tell that that's the job that she's taking. But that's kind of the big intrigue of this, right? Is she
Mm.
finds out you've got to kill your brother. So, what made you interested, or where did this story come from?
Where did it come out? It came initially, and this is probably terrible to say, it came out of watching a bad movie. I was like, I think I can do better than that with what I have.
Okay.
Which might not be the best motivation to start with. But then I was like, well, what am I going to do? And at the time, because my first film, I very much was into being quite a shallow sort of filmmaker, that Paul W.S. Anderson sort of thing, the big Hollywood thing of like, I just want to entertain. And then after so I was like, I really want to push the artistic side. I'd just gone into Japanese cinema as well at the time, particularly the films of Takeshi Kitano and Takashi Miike. And I was starting to dip my toes into the world of David Lynch. And I was like, I want to try and say, push myself artistically. Like, I know I can entertain. And there's some subtext and things in Simon as well that we found along the way. And I was like, this time I want to build a sort of message or a subtext story and build a story around that. So, um, yeah, it was initially started as like, I want to do a crime thriller better than the one I watched. And I was like, I should push myself artistically. Now, how can I do this? And what do I have? And what do I
Yeah.
really want to talk about? And I think like every young filmmaker seems to be like, oh, I want to talk about discovering my own sexuality. And then I was like, oh, everybody does that. So I want to
Yeah.
do something that's more focused on someone's identity and, whether it be like how they see themselves or like their lives or like the body that they're in or
Yeah.
anything like that and sort of explore that. Because I think all of us have those questions, just most of us have a very simple answer towards it. We're like, am I gonna commit crime? Nope, that's not me. Am I uh male? Because most of us are like, well, I feel male and it feels right, but some of
Yeah.
us have a very different path and
Right.
sort of the idea of how the world affects that path as well. Because if everybody loves each other, we all get to go on a straight highway and everything works out. But if people get in the way, it knocks you off onto like a dirt road and gets very detrimental towards you, and then you have to be the one that pushes yourself out of that. So that's kind of where it started.
That's beautiful. And I think the themes of identity obviously are very big in this movie and
Mm,
but they manifest in a lot of different ways. And not just in the sense of um, Nia herself is struggling with her identity
mm,
in many different ways, but different members of the family are trying to determine what is family. and
Mm.
even different hitmen that appear are trying to determine their own like what is my role in this story even. So they are going through their own identities crisis. But I think you mentioned that you didn't want to just explore the question of sexuality, although it does come up in this
Mm.
movie, I would say.
Yeah.
And I did want to talk about some of the sex later that comes up in this movie because I'm a big proponent of putting more sex in movies. So I was happy to see it in your movie. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Um, but no, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I've been very much a, if I can, like more is more. Sometimes more is less. Like, Jaws is always the famous example of less is more. Um, but I find like I think I was going for a Verhoeven stage at this point as well. Like I just gone through his whole back catalogue and it's like, you know what, that's a guy who does more is more at times, not afraid to show things. I think it's a very European thought of these things being fairly natural, whether you do sex, nudity, like there doesn't have to be a big shebang about it, it can just happen. And I've always found sometimes that when you cut away or shy away, that a lot of times it just feels false. Like you can, I know, I get there in a movie and like when they start to have a sex scene, it cuts away and it's like, well, you could have just had them kissing or something. Like if you're gonna cut away, don't bother with it. If you're gonna do like, the PG shower scene or something where somebody's in a shower but you don't see anything, but you're trying to titillate 12-year-olds, it's like, well, don't bother. Like if you're gonna do it, do it. Like if not,
Yeah,
then and well, we can tell it feels false. Sometimes it
right.
feels fine. Like TV shows, I think, do it wonderfully because they write for that specifically. But I think a lot of the times you see it in movies and it's soft. It feels like somebody had the idea and then everybody said no, and so they went with no, but they didn't cut the scene or work it to fit that. It just kind of got chopped.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And something else I've been thinking about too is I don't know how, culturally speaking, I'm not sure how the UK is about this. American culture in the last, like, as long as I've been alive seems to have
Mm.
gradually been becoming more puritanical, I suppose. Especially in our pop culture, like our media that we
Mm.
see and everything. So, is
Yeah.
that something that you're experiencing?
It's really hard to tell, I think, here, because everything we see online is all American geared. So the Twitter
True.
arguments
Yeah.
about getting rid of sex scenes or nudity,
Good
people
point.
like saying it's not, it's, I think it's very rarely to see British voices on this. So a lot of the times, I think we're getting affected in that, like, there is this a little bit more puritanical, but there's also a lot of people who are still like, well, you see British women, it's like they just do it the same way that most Europeans do. It's like if
You're
it's
right.
there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. There tends to be. I don't know if it's still the same now, but when I was a kid seeing British movies, I knew like it was a British film because generally the guys were naked. It's not like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get just a random full frontal shot of a dude, and it was just framed in a wide because like they're getting out of the shower, like it's
Yeah.
bath houses in the 80s. So it's a public bath, and you just can't frame it that way unless you get into an awkward tight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just appreciate the frankness whenever dealing with sex scenes. I've talked to several
Mm,
filmmakers who do that, and some of them do it more intentionally than others,
mm,
um, as a response to this thing I was talking about. So I just
mm,
wondered if that had anything. But I appreciate that. But let's talk about, you brought up David Lynch, and of course,
mm.
one of the crazy things is that I was watching your movie whenever I found out that he had passed away. And
Yeah.
of course, that's a huge loss for us. And we talked about how lucky we were that we got to share this planet with that someone of that
Yeah.
magnitude. But can you talk a little bit more about David Lynch and Takashi Miike and some of your other? I know you're influenced by Wes Craven and Clive Barker as well. So, what do you want to
Yeah.
say about these folks?
There's so much to say. So yeah, it's really sad to hear about David Lynch. It was very weird as well. All my friends like were consoling me, and it's like I didn't know him. Like it was very sad,
Right.
obviously, but I was hoping to get a chance to meet him. Like I figured it probably wasn't going to happen, especially when he announced he had emphysema. Um, but yeah, it's a shock, and like you said, we were blessed to be able to share the time with someone like that. And he's actually become a very recent inspiration not only in his style of filmmaking, like David Lynch is one of those people that when you watch your stuff, you're like, you can make anything. You know,
Right.
you
Yeah.
watch the Twin Peaks, the Return season three limited series, whatever they called the
Yeah.
last season of it, and they have effects that look like they've been made on like MS Paint at times,
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
stuff that looks absolutely amazing. And it's like he proves you can do anything. If you want to go for it, go for it. And if it looks
Yeah.
tacky, someone's gonna like it. You know, it's gonna speak to their language, and if it looks great, someone's gonna like it.
Yeah.
And just as long as you're true to yourself. But him as a person, as a director, there's a fantastic biography that happened, or autobiography, that I listened to on audiobook. The audiobook I recommend because the setup is that the author of the book writes a chapter about his past, and then he recounts his version of events
Oh
of it. So,
yeah.
so you get the author, who was this woman, I can't remember her name, reads the chapter, and then the next chapter is David Lynch doing how he feels the chapter, how he remembers it going, where he thinks they got something wrong, or if he disagrees or agrees.
That's so cool.
This- And it's like, this is the most David Lynch biography that could ever have been. And like the first five chapters are like his young youth life. Like we haven't even touched filmmaking yet.
Yeah.
But then and then his attitudes to sets, like I've been like a camera operator on some smaller um productions before I started managing to get to direct or during. I just like being on set, so I'll turn up for most people's stuff if it works out. I see a lot of directors who run on like, I don't know, this weird alpha kind of like scare everybody into working and make everything tense, and it's horrible. And Lynch's
Right.
idea is like, you should make everybody calm. Everybody should be happy. You hire actors because they can act. So if you need them to do something sad or get angry or something, you don't need to torment them to do that.
Yes.
They can do that. That is their
Right.
job.
Right.
Like, and yeah, so like as a way to run a set and things, like he's really like been a heavy influence on how to like put things together, talk to people, be frank and upfront and things, as well as like Mulholland Drive was my first art house film.
Oh yeah.
I was like 16 in my first job, and my boss walked in one day and was like, "Ron, you want to be a filmmaker? Watch this." And he threw it on the counter and he was like, "I don't get it. I've watched it sober, I've watched it high, I've watched it wasted. It's either the best film that's ever made or it's a giant piece of shit. Tell me what it is."
Everybody wants to have David Lynch's work explained to them.
Right? And then
That's amazing.
I remember I watched it at the time, I had no idea what happened. I watched it with a bunch of mates, which isn't the best way to watch Lynch because you start talking over things, and then when you've missed something, like that's it, man. Like you're like, wait,
Yeah.
what's happening? Why is this happening? Why is that happening?
Yeah. No, that
But it stuck with us and we had a great time with it. And then over the years, I've just slowly revisited things. And then weirdly, I watched it with my other half. It was her first time watching it when they did the restoration
yeah.
of the Studio Canal. Um, so I watched it and like I've looked it up and things and like read about it and worked out like what the common theory for it is. But she watched it for the first time and then she was like, "Oh, so this is all blah 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 blah." I was like, "Wow, I have to explain some like Transformers or like simple movies of what's going on." And she's like, "The most complicated film I can think of." She's like, "Oh yeah, this makes sense. Like this is
Right.
all this." I was like, "Huh." And of course, that
That's
obviously, I think the way it deals with dreams and possible like double dual realities is obviously something that influenced Dead Name because we do a similar idea of duality. In fact, Lost Highway was probably a soft influence because I watched that, but I didn't really remember it at the time. But also that deals with a lot of duality on characters being two people or
sure.
multiple peoples and things. Um, so that's kind of that. And then Takashi Miike was definitely my let me say he was my growing way into art house. Like I feel like I came into art house later in life, which was the right time for me to hit it. Like it was not something I was going to enjoy at 15, 16 because I wasn't that kind of an audience member. But as I've grown up and been more interested in um, everything about a film, whether it's the message and things and the way it looks and stuff, instead of just what's the the standard entertainment, if you will. And Miike was definitely that forte into growing into understanding that those kinds of movies, starting with, I think we watched Dead or Alive first. Actually, it was my first Miike.
Okay.
Um, yeah, which is just like a crazy violent opening, followed by a 2 hour like cop drama that ends with
Yeah.
a crazy ending that is like a definitive, well, they can't make any more of those, and then it proceeds to be a trilogy. Which
I love that. I mean, and it's interesting because like his violence too is so
mm,
extreme. Like a lot, not all the time, but a lot of the time. And so, but a lot of the time, like you said, it's you see it. Sometimes it comes out of the blue in some
mm,
cases, and then it's immediately undercut by something like that, like the cop drama. And I thought of the same thing in Dead Name. There were a few moments without spoiling too much, but especially with the hitmen, the married couple, which was
mm.
hilarious. There's really funny moments with them, but you undercut it because that one guy, oh, where's his name now? Hitman Steve is extremely violent.
Yeah, in fact, the Hitmen were a direct Miike inspiration, simply because he puts a lot of gay content in his films, like particularly the earlier
Yeah.
lower budget ones. It was just there. I got to meet some people who have worked with him recently, and they said that apparently he's recently come out of the closet, which we all went, "Oh, that makes a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
sense."
Yeah.
Just like,
I had no idea. Yeah.
but no, like again, take that with a grain of salt because I've not seen anything to corroborate it. But there's people that know him have said it. But yeah, it was always just kind of there, and because Dead Name was going to be a sort of queer film, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term. I was like, well, I can't just have queer women in it. I should have some queer men. It'd be cool to have these two hitmen because, again, I think it's not the Black Triad Society or that trilogy films. There's like a gay hitman couple who are like the main villains, but
Yeah.
they're like to the dignity. It's something I'd seen someone talk about, like, oh, it's really cool to see gay bad guys who aren't bad guys because they're gay. Like that's not their like
Yes.
um main personality, but they'd be the same if they were like a straight couple. And I thought, oh, it'd be fun to like have
Yeah.
a gay hitman team. And very terribly, I kept their names as Adam and Steve. They're supposed to be placeholder names because of
I
that
didn't
whole
even notice
face.
the other guy's name was Adam. I got Steve. Man, I didn't even notice that. That's great.
It might be that nobody says their names out loud. I realize like I don't name drop a lot of characters in this film. I should really force that more. But yeah,
That's
they were like,
okay. It's nice being subtle too, because then you can pick it up later.
but yeah, I was like, oh, that stupid saying. It's like it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And it's like, well, it's fucking
Right.
Adam and Steve this time.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I
I
was like,
love that.
my actors will pick this up, and then we'll change names to something that they like. And then nobody mentioned anything, so we just rolled with it.
That's awesome. I love that so much. And so you really love playing with names too, I can tell, because you have Nia and you have her
Yeah,
brother is Ian. And
I spent way
I
too
don't want to
much
talk
time
about
putting that together.
well, how much time did you spend putting that together?
How did I? I spent probably a couple of days trying to think of like what's some letters I can play with and names I can play with, and then finally like because a friend of mine's called Nia, so I was like,
Oh, okay.
I could probably mess with that. That's 3 letters, and then I found out she spells it completely differently. I was like, oh well, Nia could also be spelled this way. I hope. Okay, it's
Yeah,
my movie. It worked.
absolutely. Nia DaCosta, the director,
Oh, of
I think it's
course.
spelled that way. That's great. I love that. And yeah, so you have Nia. Oh, and then the other movie, Simon, you had Detective, what was it, Detective Loomis or something like that. So you're referencing some of your
Yeah.
horror icons in there too. So
Yeah, Simon, like everybody's last names were all directors that I felt influenced that film.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Cunningham was one of them, I think.
Yeah, Cunningham was
Um,
there, Craven, Barker.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nick Parker, that's right. And so yeah, the Lynch and the Miike thing, I could see all of that coalescing. I really feel like I see so much like early Craven, especially early
Um,
Craven, and and Clive Barker. I saw it a lot more in Simon, I think, and then the other Lynch and Miike influences
Mm.
coalesce. But this movie is just wild because it takes you on such a journey. I don't know how much of the journey you want to reveal, but do you want to talk a little bit about the journey that Nia goes on?
Yeah, it's tricky because it's like one of those things. It's like, oh, there's our like little twist and secret things,
Right,
but it's also the
right.
most interesting like part of the movie.
Yes.
So I recommend for any of your viewers to pause this, go buy it. It's
Yeah.
on Amazon or darksidereleasing.com, but the Blu-rays are there. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere yet. My distributor keeps being really vague on if it's streaming.
Oh, let's
So
see.
I don't know because there's like a whole process to streaming that just seems to be like dragging your feet to
Oh,
get
okay.
it up there. So it goes to like the wholesalers or
Oh, okay.
realtors or
Okay.
whomever, and then they deal with it all, but they're not very. The left hand and the right hand don't really speak to each other. And then everybody has to like rush when it finally comes out.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. But
So it's
didn't
no.
Simon wasn't Simon on Netflix?
Yes, I'm in
Yes.
still on Netflix in
Oh,
Europe.
great. Awesome.
So if you're in the UK or anywhere in Europe, you can watch Simon, which is really cool. Everywhere else, you gotta go to Amazon Prime. I think
Yes.
it's like 99 cents or 99 pence to watch. I guess really the film about Nia's journey is one of self-discovery, really, and um, understanding who they are, and realizing that who they are and how to be true to themselves is the better way to go than trying to be somebody that they're not to please everybody else around them. I think is the basic way to say
That's yeah, that's good. It's really hard to tiptoe around things.
it.
You don't want to give away too much, but I highly recommend it because the journey that you go on with Nia, it's very excited. You'll be like, wait, I thought this was happening, but this is not what's happening. But in a really good way, not in a like I'm horribly confused and frustrating way. It's in a fun and exciting way. So I think
Excellent.
that's great. So let's talk a little bit about some of the I want to try to be vague with some of these moments that I want to talk about. However, if we can't be vague, just know if you're watching this, there might be spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
Um, you have a lot of cool shots in this movie that I really appreciated, and one of my favorites was during the. Okay, there's spoilers coming ahead. One of my favorites was during the electrical clamping
Oh
scene,
yeah.
and, and to me, that was whenever the Mike thing popped out, and I was like, I wonder if this is one of the influences here. But what I really loved was when the electrocution goes off, and you're transitioning to the scene of the guy in the wolf mask at the same
Mm.
time. So you talk about your thought process in doing this.
So this is where the film gets so real. So there was supposed to be some extra scenes that sort of made this more explicit on what was actually like supposed to be happening. But we kind of leaned in because we ran out of like money and time. We kind of leaned into um interpreting it. But essentially we started seeing um Nia's being electrocuted, which was quite probably the most nervous my actor has been in the entire film. Paul Caspian was like, so these because they're proper clips that you put on a car battery, when you try and jumpstart a car. So like, how close to my nipples are you
God.
getting? Like, how sharp are these things?
Yeah,
And I was like, well, let's tape them and like we'll do everything and we'll try and get like close but not too close. And
yeah.
I think we in the end let Caspian hold it themselves to do it. So that they could control the distance and everything and know exactly how much pressure is. But the idea, so I guess we're gonna go into big spoilers, which would
And
be
I may cut it. I may cut that part out, but I just wanted
obviously
to ask you about it. Yeah.
is so this is I guess actually this might be the best way to explain it. This is a point in the movie where I felt Nia's um everything's coming together. So what Nia's experiencing in this place, what's happening, in this other sort of reality or like the dream or the real world, whichever way you want to look at it, you know, and the light and dark side of Nia's mind, like the negative emotions and positives, are all coming together, and this is like the jump start that they either end up giving up on everything or start pushing to like fight to survive. That's kind of the idea with it, and that whole mishmash of like everything coming together. So like memories come through, memories that they thought they remembered one way are now coming through in a slightly different way, where they realize what was actually kind of happening, and piecing things together in the film. Because obviously we present as a gangster movie for most of it, and then it seems to be subtle hints that like maybe the gangsters aren't really what's going on, or these other like interpretations of what's really happening. Yeah. So it was kind of like the two worlds coming together, and then which way they're going to go with themselves, like if they're going to give up or fight, survive. And that was
Right.
um, a very that was one of my Lynchian in, takes, and I think yeah, I can't remember how much cross-cutting but I always knew I wanted to like really cross-cut and like get some quick shots and then jump to like a different scene, and then we'll play out something that's, it was almost like an expedition dump without trying to like physically give exposition that we then go back and see scenes that fill in those gaps that you might be having
Yeah,
while
exactly.
being really tense, I hope.
No, yeah, exactly. It's like it's a rush because you are seeing some very extreme violence happening on
Mm,
screen. But for Nia, this is like a very big awakening. Um, and it's also a big awakening for the audience too.
mm,
So I think it works very well. But you do have to be paying attention to images on the screen, and a lot of
mm.
people, I think that's one of the things that makes Lynch frustrating for modern audiences was that they had to pay attention too much, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have to watch this movie. Um, and pay attention to it, and because the imagery is one of the best things about taking it in. I
Oh,
think
thank
I
you.
love seeing the wolf on there and the different colors that you use.
I love playing with colors. I find um having like I binge a lot of indie films and things as well. Because I think if you're gonna be a filmmaker and you're at this like really low budget level, you need to watch other stuff that looks
Yeah,
like it could be on your level or like just above or whatnot. And I was always taken by how bland a lot of films are in the coloring. Like they do, I don't know what to call it, but it's like when you shoot footage raw, you get this very gray kind of like look and very pastel look because the camera's getting as much information so you can like recolor it any way you want.
yeah,
Um, and a lot of people use that for a look because it's a look at the end of the day, and a lot of people like it, and then they don't have to pay for a colorist or anything. And I've always been more intrigued by like using color to represent stuff and things like I love Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses because that goes mad with colors and things. Sometimes it feels like he's just
absolutely.
like, how would this look in yellow? How does this like, colorway look
Yeah,
in blue? So, and I made a bunch of short films where I just hit those buttons and you know went with it and things. And this time I was like, oh, I really want to I can say a few things with colors, with like red and blue being particular, like, something's not necessarily clear. Maybe I can put some red or blue over it, and that will sort of hint at whose sort of perspective we're in. Or again, like, I really like, again, it's a Miike thing. I love that there's a few films of his where he does flashbacks but to
hmm
kind of like help code them as being like not in the same time frame, he blows out the saturation and the contrast. So you go from
yeah,
having something that might be very sepia to something that looks very Michael Bay.
yeah,
And I think, oh, that's a really, for me, that was a really interesting a visual cue on like, okay, so this isn't in the same period of time. And so I
yep,
played with things like that. So you'll find the main film is very desaturated, but when we cut back to a flashback like this then very like colorful or it's got a very singular tone and depending on whose point of view it is changes sort of whose how I tried coloring it and things
yeah.
you know.
I love that. And I also love the idea of using color grading to indicate your transitions in time and you're
Mm,
following the character, but also the way that you color it can indicate their emotions about that memory or,
mm.
or their experiences in that moment too. So a lot of the times, like when Nia's going back and thinking about that interaction with the the other was it the other gang family or something, the hookup that happened there.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to get too
yeah.
specific, but thinking about those memories, a lot of the times it's kind of red, or
Mm.
maybe there's some blue in there too. So there's lots of sadness and strong emotions that are going on with those memories. So, um, yeah, I love that. Thanks for
It's
sharing that.
yeah. It's like even in that torture scene, we gradually get more and more red as well, otherworldly and more like it's like Nia's in hell. Let's make it look kind of like hell.
Talk a little bit about your collaborators on this. So who played Nia?
Nia was played by an actor called Caspian Faye, who actually transitioned in real life.
Okay.
Um, I can't take credit of saying that I cast a trans actor in like a very um gender focused story. Because I didn't realize they were transitioning. I just thought they had a very cool neutral sort of look.
Yeah.
Which my exact thoughts are like they kind of got that David Bowie thing going on.
Like an androgynous type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Caspian's like, ah, that's cool. Yeah. And they really liked the script. We met on a short film that I'd shot, which was supposed to be part of an anthology film that fell apart. But yeah, I put out a little casting call, saw that they were in Avengers. They doubled Scarlet Witch in Age of Ultron. So I
Oh,
was like,
cool. Okay.
I have to meet this person because I
Oh,
want to
that's
know
super
all
cool.
those stories.
Yeah.
And they had to, oh, and they doubled Natalie Portman in All the Dark World
Oh,
as
shit.
well.
Okay.
And they were getting out of Dublin because says it's really strange and taxing because
Mm.
essentially when you double someone, particularly if you do a lot of like how the Marvel movies are made, there's a lot of times when the actors aren't really together, and there's a lot of times where somebody has to perform the entire scenes
Oh, wow.
in the way that the other actors are doing it, you know. So they're
Oh,
like, you
geez.
essentially become another person. So they're like, right, they became like Natalie Portman for ages, you know,
Oh,
and then they're
wow.
like, oh,
That's
it's
crazy.
it's weird to play someone else that long at all time because it's not just the character that you can snap out of. You then have to like because you're thinking of how to act as a person playing a role. So you have
Right,
to do that.
that's trippy. It's like I talked to someone in the horror mosaic who talked about
Mm.
being a ghostwriter,
Oh yeah.
and she said it was a similar concept. Like she had to
Oh
become
right.
that person in order
Mm.
to successfully do that job, and it just like it was too much to handle.
Yeah.
So
So I so they
yeah,
wanted to find their own voice, I guess
yeah,
these would have said. And so we hooked up on that short film. We really liked each other. We worked well together. And then I sent them the script for Dead Name. They really liked it. We went through a couple of tweaks. Um, I had a problem in our first week. So, what I can usually do with a film like this, I booked like 2 weeks off work to do it.
okay,
And Caspian unfortunately didn't realize that we were going to film the whole thing outside of London. And so they didn't realize that they weren't going to be able to go home each night. So they had like self tapes and things that they needed to do. So our
yeah.
first week got like completely rescheduled on day one.
God,
And but you know, they bent over backwards to try and like make sure they could make the days that I couldn't push. And there's so much fun to work with. Like Caspian's really open and very collaborative. Like I love actors who have ideas. Like I usually cast on someone who feels like a good vibe to cast. It's like I don't need to do much work if I'm already seeing something that I like. And I
yeah,
find a lot of people feel like as a director you have to like tweak everything. But if you're happy with something, then you can just go with it. And then you
yeah,
can do like one or two takes because you know, like right, they did the thing exactly how I wanted it to. Was it in focus? You know, it becomes like the big problem instead of being like, ah, they're being really wooden here, or they're taking it too high.
Yeah.
And sometimes you tweak a little thing like that where they do it one way, you're like, let's bring it down or let's bring it up, you know. But yeah, Caspian is fantastic. Really natural, really again, really easy and fun to work with. We have loads in common. We still chat now. They're actually segued into being an intimacy coordinator as well.
Oh,
Um,
sweet. Okay.
so on my third film, Love and Vengeance, which is just getting sound mixed at the moment. They were in it as a character, and then they were the intimacy coordinator on that show as well,
Oh,
um,
great.
which was fantastic. I know a lot of directors are really scared of intimacy coordinators because they think the intimacy coordinator's job is to cut everything down, but it's
Oh,
not. Their job is
s-
to facilitate what you want. So if you're like,
right.
I want to film this scene and I want them topless and we're going to be wide, you give them every piece of information of how you want the scene to go, and then the intimacy coordinator goes to your actor. Presumably, if like me, you've already had a conversation with your actor at casting. 'Cause that's another thing I find a lot of directors sort of skip is they'll have, let's take for example the gratuitous shower scene. Like you're like,
Yeah.
right, distribution or whoever, or just because that's how you want to shoot it, you want a shower scene that your actor, whether it be male or female, is naked
Yeah.
and you want to see them topless, you're not interested about below the waist. You're like, that's not necessarily like the selling point is this bit, that's sexy enough or
Yeah.
whatever. And I tell the actors that up front, and I've seen or heard a lot of directors don't. They're like, well, it's in the script, and we'll worry about it on the day.
Right.
So, and but everybody reads it differently. That actor might be reading it like, okay, my back will be to the camera. That's fine. I can do that. I'm happy with that. While the director's like, well, this is obviously going to be back to the camera, turn to the camera, grab towel, and then cover yourself, whatnot. So I usually have that conversation first, but then the intimacy coordinator's job is also to have that conversation and make sure that, okay, like how much crew there's like, okay, your actor wants a closed set. They want another female in the room so that they feel comfortable.
Okay.
Or they want their partner in the room so that they feel comfortable. Only the camera operator, like, there's bare minimal, you know, they go for everything. They're like, here's the hard nose, here's the like yeses. Um, and they make my job, it made my job on Love and Vengeance easier because we have a sex scene in that. And the only thing I had to do was get storyboards for it which I couldn't get a storyboard artist and I had to draw myself, which was stickman drawings, which the actors loved. It gave them a good laugh and made everybody really
That's great.
to the point
That's
where I had to write their names next to them so they knew which character was which.
that's that's
And
great.
so and then they could block it. They could do the blocking with the actors while because I don't have much crew, I was camera operating myself. I can camera operate. But on this film, we didn't have an intimacy coordinator at the time. We just were very frank on the discussions. It's like, I
Yeah.
want to do it this way, and like, I had two actors who were very open to being frank. Like, I guess, Caspian was always comfortable with it. And Johanna is part of like the sex scene and they're Europeans. So, they're like, yeah, like nudity's not
Yeah.
a problem, don't mind. Again, conversations up front and then on the day going through everything. So I recommend that for any directors doing that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Talk up front. Like you might not get the first actor you want. They might be like, it's not for me, but then that's not the project for them. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. No,
You'll
I
find
think
someone else that fits it better,
that's
like in
great.
a
And
different way.
it also highlights the fact that this is also filmmaking is so collaborative too.
Mm,
And it's like you should find a project where you're gonna like you gel together. That's why I'm always curious talking to directors. I've never talked to one about the intimacy coordinator. But you hear a lot of stories from very loud people who are like, I don't
mm.
want to, they're gonna ruin my movie.
Yeah,
And based on what you're saying, the intimacy coordinator's role is, it sounds like those people don't view filmmaking as much as a collaborative effort and
mm,
view it more as like, this is mine. Is
yeah.
that right? You
Yeah,
think?
or they think that this person's there to like take you down. I think there's a lot of paranoia
Yeah.
sometimes, particularly if someone has a strong vision. I won't say I don't have a strong vision. I do, but I'm always of the mindset that actors live in the heads of these characters a bit more. So
Yeah.
I'll push back on something that I know I definitely like want or need that I feel. the right way for the film, even if it goes against an actor's instinct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been like they've been telling people to view them as like the same thing as a stunt coordinator. It's the same kind of job, or a dance choreographer. You know, it's the same job to like help tell the story. And it frees you up as a director to go and like sort out the technical side and then come back and see this technical side. And even for actors, again, an industry coordinator works at your level. So if you're someone who's as an actor is like, I'm happy for us to like improv, just don't put hands here or here. I'm
Yeah.
happy for us to find it in the moment. Industry coordinator be like, well, relay that. Like, okay, they're happy for this person actually really wants to know the beats. And in fact, that's something that came up. They're like, how long is this scene gonna be? I was like, I don't know. It's kind of like an important scene. I want it to run for like at least a minute, 2 minutes in total or something. But I can't really give you how long it's gonna be until we can like sort of do a dry rehearsal, and then we can kind of get a feel for what it is. I know I want these shots, and I know I don't need it to be blue is the warmest color, 10 minutes long, because
Sure. Yeah. I forgot about that movie until you just brought it up. I was like, wait, what's that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
yeah, I haven't
Exactly.
seen that movie yet because romance genre is not really my genre as a
Sure. Yeah.
standard. And then I heard it was 3 hours long, so I was like,
Yeah.
romance Lord of the Rings is
It is
definitely
good.
not my genre. Is it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might
I think it's
now.
good. I haven't, yeah.
Now I've matured a bit more. I might give it a crack. I've gotten into dramas, straight dramas, a lot more. Um,
Yeah.
without a genre subplot or a genre lead on
It,
it.
I mean, I get it. It's hard for me. I rarely watch movies outside of the horror genre, to be honest with you.
Ah, yeah.
Like last year, I think it was less than five
Hmm.
total out of all the movies I watched. So I was like, part of that is by necessity and just built into things I do. But um, I wanted to ask you about some other things if we could
Yeah.
segue to talk about sound design, because there were some things from Simon that we talked about in the Horror Mosaic episode that I thought really um, manifested again in Dead Name and showed
Hmm.
like starting to really see your style and the Warren Badensky signature come into focus. And that's through sound design, and that's
Hmm.
through the colors that you were talking about, the color grading, the character development, and the writing. I thought that the writing, the character development in these movies is especially strong and makes them stand out for independent. So, what was your
Right.
process going from Simon into Dead Name? What lessons did you learn and focus on?
Ooh, good question. What did I focus on? I guess I knew where I wanted my lead character to go. So I knew they had to start one way and then end up being another way. So that like, builds on a simple character development for them. Um, and then the side characters, it kind of just goes, ooh, how- got me stumped on that one because
Sorry,
it
that is
just
like
it just
a
felt
loaded question.
natural. I think is the
Yeah.
weirdest way I can
No,
put it.
that's good. Yeah.
Like, my writing is almost a bit like my math solving in that I kind of see the answer and I'm not entirely sure how I did the working out.
I got you. Yeah.
It just kind of felt natural um to do these things. And I guess like, um something I was doing on Deadling more was having characters be representations of things as opposed to just being simple characters in their own right, but always trying to keep a sense of agency so that they all have their own motives, whatever they're doing. They all have a motive to do it instead of just being there for someone else.
Yeah.
And I think nearly everybody gets that, so you can see like, oh yeah, like the sister's motive is, protecting the family and like getting rid of the weak link. The mum wants to try and keep the family together, but knows that, they have to do things a certain way, otherwise they lose their positions. Nia being torn on how to deal with everything, and finally, like, making decisions. Things. The hitman just in it for, well, like, there's supposed to be a bit of a yin and yang to them. So, like,
Yep.
Adam is supposed to be like in it for the money, a professional, and Steve's like, you know, in it for the fun.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun doing this shit.
Again, and a lot of it as well was collaborating with Richard. Richard Wilde plays Steve. Steve? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, throughout production, I kept getting their names wrong. I don't know
Oh.
why. I could never stick which one was Adam and which one was Steve. And I kept sending them pages with because we had to rewrite stuff. I kept sending them pages where the names kept flipping. I was like, God damn it. Or I'd have to like go back and watch the introduction scenes, be like, which one's Steve?
That's
I
hilarious.
don't know why it wouldn't stick. Even in the credits, I had to like triple check.
That's funny
Like,
because
God
they're
damn
very
it.
distinctive, you know? Like
Yeah,
they're definitely two different characters.
yeah, absolutely. And again, unfortunately, Kane lost a lot of scenes. He plays Adam. He lost a lot of scenes when we ended up losing pages,
Oh, okay.
which was a shame. But Richard got to develop the character quite nicely, and the red suit and the red glasses was something that
Mm.
he proposed on the day. He's like, so Steve should be having a lot of fun right now. Like this is his thing, right? Like this is what he lives for. Like yeah, yeah. It's like I was thinking he has an outfit for it. Like go
That's
on.
perfect.
And he's like, how about this jacket with these glasses? And he was very much consider thinking I was going to be like, no, that's insane. Like, we're making a very grounded movie. And
Yeah.
instead, I was like, yes, that is amazing. That is a look. Like, let's do it. And it
It's
just,
great. And it highlights his like you said, it highlights his
yeah.
well, partly his insanity, but also just his sense of humor, which comes through a lot as well. Uh,
Mm,
Even though he's doing crazy things. And he likes red.
yeah. That's right.
He likes a lot of red. Um, okay, anything else you want to say about your actors?
Yeah, just yeah, they're all so wonderful to work with. Very good at remembering lines, all of them, which is always
Oh,
amazing to
nice.
me. Like, we very rarely got stuck on a line unless we were doing like a scene for hours. And then when you're on like, because you'll do like two takes on like one angle, but then you might get another angle. Where it's like, well, the camera's moving on this one, focus isn't hitting right. So you get six takes on that, and then you got two takes another way. So they've done the scene like 15 times, 20 times. And like they're getting tired. I don't think we ever appreciate how tiring acting is.
Yeah.
Um, and how hard it is sometimes to keep a straight face on like things that's supposed to be funny or like something that sounds ridiculous on set, but comes out just straight in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, they were all so much fun to work with, like no drama with anyone. Again, like Richard, I've talked with most of them still. Richard, in the next film. Um,
Oh,
and
good.
they were all very excited that, we didn't have too much time to play with scenes, but they had the freedom to suggest ideas and, nine times out of 10, usually went with it. It's like
I love
let's
that.
try that take, and if it doesn't work, let's go back to how the script was.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm,
And that's another, I always beat this horse because I don't think it can ever be said enough. The collaborative nature of filmmaking,
mm,
and directors who are open to hearing that sort of input from the people that they're supposed to be
mm,
collaborating with. And I think that's great. And it's the type of thing that I really want to promote, especially as our societies become more individualized and more selfish and less focused on community and more
yeah.
isolated.
Mm,
I think it's the type of thing that, and also because people don't watch movies as much as they used to in terms of
yeah.
paying attention to it and things. So I'm trying to talk about these things so that people can see its value.
Yeah, so absolutely, I think there's a lot of value to movies and the process behind it, and the arts in general. Like I even forget how much in daily life that the arts sort of help. Something as simple
Yep.
as like taking the drama class at school, get you used to talking to strangers or
Right.
presenting something. When you go to work, you have to present this prim, sort of proper professional version of yourself that's like, hello, sir. Yes, ma'am. And not,
Yeah.
all right, mate. What are you doing today, dumbass? Like, you don't want that. Like, yes, that's
House.
a wonderful purchase.
That's But I think that's a really good point too. Actually, I was reading something today, and it was like Gen Z has the highest rate of social anxiety
Mm,
compared to any other generation. I guess besides the ones that come after them. But
mm.
I think this is a way to model because you can't just say to people, "Trust me, go out and talk to people. It'll make your life better." You have to show them how that can be the case, and if you have that anxiety, find it, and everyone else in your generation does too. Get together and make a movie, and see
Yeah.
if that can help you through it. You know?
Share something together. Like me and some friends,
Yeah,
we play Dungeons and Dragons, which is
yeah,
again uses a bunch of the arts and maths and things. Like it's quite funny. My mum would have loved me playing that as a kid, because it's like it does math, it gets you reading, you know.
yeah,
You then like do a bit of drama in it because if you get in the right group, like our group loves to play with voices and build characters. So we have a bit of a gas, putting this together. And it's
yeah.
not anything serious. I think as well, something that's become weird is a lot of people try and like make their hobbies a side job or something. And
Right.
that's sort of like proposed by podcasts and things. Um, but you can also take joy in just doing art for yourself. Like,
Yep.
um, yeah, like the Dungeons and Dragons and writing little stories and things is something, I do for myself. Things filmmaking I do for myself, but that's something I want to get paid for.
Yeah.
If I could change that to a
Right.
job, then that's one of those jobs that I'd love to just carry on doing as opposed to my typical J job.
Right.
Um, and um I lost my train of thought. But like yeah, like art brings joy in ways that, we struggle without it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you don't want,
And
and you don't want to capitalize on everything. You don't want to insert
hmm,
capitalist tendencies into everything in your life because, as
yeah.
you were saying, it's like, and it'll make you start to get bitter about it as well over
Hmm,
time. Like, I travel a lot, and I have a camper van. I like to use it to travel around the
oh,
country, and a lot of people have always said, "Why don't you make a YouTube channel about that? Those are really popular." And I'm like, "No, I need something in my life to stay pure, you know? It's like that
yeah.
is the one thing I can control."
Yeah, I understand that for sure. Because I've tried doing podcasts. I love to showing up on people's podcasts. Like I
Yeah.
cannot run one to save my life. Um, been trying to put one together with a friend of mine for years. We did a few episodes back in the day, um, but we just cannot get it together. So my mission now is to just show up on everybody else's like podcasts and YouTube shows and talk
That's
film.
good. We do want to help get your work out, and that's why a lot of us exist, I think.
That's perfect. That works for me because I like the
Yeah.
sound of my own voice as I'm speaking, but I don't like editing it.
I
And
got you. Okay.
I know that it doesn't work if I'm on my own as well.
Well, let me ask you another thing I wanted to ask about some of the themes in Dead Name, actually. So,
Yeah.
um, there's a lot, like we said, there's a lot of plot going on in this movie, a lot of themes
Mm,
related to identity. Um, but you also deal directly in this movie with some transphobic and homophobic violence.
yeah.
And not just violence, but also like implicit bigotry and things like that. So, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that came up through like the research if I was going to tell a story that was going to focus on these things, then obviously you got to share the bad side and the good side, and help educate people on like how daft they are when they're being homophobic or transphobic or just bigots in general,
Yeah.
because it is daft. Like
Right.
for very stupid and it doesn't make any sense, you know. Um, to be so negative on. So one of the I think the main theme of the movie really is love, the way that love and hate um hit near and how that really affects their journey. And they realize that, the love from the right or the right kinds of love, hit them that they can go on their path properly. And sometimes there's hate that's disguised as love as well, And even I think a lot of the people who perpetrate these horrible things don't really understand that what they're doing is wrong, you know. like when you get people who are like, oh, the conversion therapy and things, they're doing it out of love to save you. And it's like, no, you just don't understand that you're scared of this. And like, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not right. Like, you
Yeah,
need to sort of like work on yourself and get
exactly.
over it. So that really, I feel is the main theme for me in this one was love.
Yeah, and that comes through, especially with a lot of Nia's voiceovers that happen.
Mm,
I would say in the beginning, like they kind of bookend the movie and with
I,
some really great lines that I don't want to quote them exactly because I think it's good to experience those for the first time.
oh,
Um,
thank you. Yeah,
so yeah.
I came in a dream. I was really struggling to like make
Oh, really?
something that's something good. And I had a dream and I wrote it down and it sort of like half made sense. And then I worked on it and tweaked it. I think Caspian helped shape it a bit
Okay.
as well. And we went back and forth for a few years, just like sending texts like, what do you think of this? Like, oh, how about
Wow.
this? And like, oh, cool, yeah. And in fact, I
Caspian
think we
is
had
amazing.
one.
Yeah.
I think we had one that was something similar that was perfect, and then it took months to come and like I record it. So I'd saved it on WhatsApp and like screenshotted it, and then lost the thing on my computer because my computer died, and
That
went
sucks.
to scroll back up for the WhatsApp message, and obviously like the picture's gone because like I've wiped photos off my phone for
Oh
storage.
no.
Do you have that message? And like, no, why? It's like, because I forgot to ask you to record it, and like, can you record it? Like, oh, and then we had to go back through the process.
Oh my God.
And like, this is great. There we go. We got it. I don't know if it's the same thing, but it's the same like meaning.
Yeah, I mean, I think you two obviously worked very well together and their performance was
Mm-hmm.
just really, really great. So I would love to see them in more movies. But I want to talk for a second about Blue Glass. Was this the first Under Blue Glass's banner?
Yeah. So in fact, it didn't start as Bluegrass because it was just me making it at first. But then once we hit post-production, Natasha Rose Mills, who's an actress, writer, producer, she was one of the leads in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. She's the girl with the glasses, whose name I forget. Um, and she's been in a bunch of things. We actually like crossed paths on a film called The Heiress.
Okay.
That A friend of mine, Chris Bell, who was Simon, he
Oh yeah.
directed that. And I came in for 2 days, I think. I did some like photography and then I grabbed a couple of shots for them that they missed during the main production. I managed to wrangle a second unit director credit.
Oh good.
Yeah.
The
Oh, and there's
Heiress, I
some,
need to check this out.
yeah, it's an interesting little movie actually. My mum made all the like masks, these like old Victorian masks. Like
Oh
every month
really?
with paper mache and dyed them. They look really good on camera.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Is she an artist?
yeah, she's actually a teacher, just about to retire, but she's always like drawn and like made things, and she's got this craft room. Again, going back to like arts, I think she hit a bad mental health patch, and she
Yeah,
started crafting cards and things. So she makes birthday cards, celebration cards, just out of like old cards and bits of material and things, and that like she does it for herself. And
that's
so we get
awesome.
thousands of cards, and it's one of those things again, like bringing joy back to someone.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's beautiful. And also like I don't know, just when people are given a place to create something and when they
yeah,
know that someone wants you to create something for them too, it just fills you up with so much life because I think everybody wants to create something. Not everyone knows
mm,
how to.
yeah,
Or I mean, not that there is a how to per se, but
mm,
not everyone thinks that they can
yeah,
because they think of
absolutely.
there is a how to. So I think it can really help with that.
Natasha just randomly hit me up while I was well, it must have been last year. I was messaged out of the blue on Facebook because we've been Facebook friends thanks to the Eris and Chris Bell, and she's just saying like she's trying to get into the world of producing. 'Cause, like she just I was looking for jobs that she kind of wanted to do. Again, we have this whole thing of like, there's a lot of times as an actor where you look right to casting people for a certain type of role, and she wanted to like do these other roles that nobody was sort of hiring her for. So she was like, "Well, if I can produce it, same sort of thing Tom Cruise did. Like he's like, I want these roles, so I'm going to produce it." And then was asking if I had anything that she could like be a producer on. And I was like, I've made this movie, Dead Name. Been trying. I think I was about 6 months into trying to release it somewhere. Like I'd done a few festivals online and things, and most of it at the time went taking it, and distributors weren't getting back to me. So I was like, you can be a producer on it if you can find us like a distributor. Yeah. So she came in late on this one, but yeah, we decided to put a company together, um, and she found us this distributor, Dark Side Releasing, a Canadian company, who absolutely fell in love with the film, which was great. And at the same time, we managed to get to two festivals and win best LGBTQ film on both of them, which was very cool. So that's how she got involved, and that's how sort of like Blue Glass started. We went for a bunch of name changes at first, which was weird. Then we settled on Blue Glass. She picked the name, and I was like, "That sounds good." Naming things isn't my strong point, but for a company like a production company, like any name sounds good. But she's also kind of a perfectionist on names, so she's like, "Does Blue Glass really suit?" I was like, "It's just a production company. No one cares what it's called." Like Zack Snyder's was called Cruel and Unusual Pictures for
Right.
for years. So Man of Steel and like Batman v Superman were made by Cruel and Unusual Pictures before they finally like changed it to Stone Quarry. So we can always change later on if we
Is that
find
what
an
it's
image.
called? I had no idea that's what they were called.
Yeah, I always feel because I'm a bit of a Snyder fan. I think he gets a bad rap. Like there's usually more going on in his films than people give him credit for. And his way of using slow-mo like is my kind of film language. So I get it if you don't like it, like it's fine. And there's a subset of online people who have made it very hard to be a fan. Blast you if you like it, blast you if you don't. And
Yeah.
um again, like just love each other, guys. It's fine. Like some people aren't gonna like his work.
Is there anything else you want to add about Dead Name that we didn't get to
Um,
talk about?
I guess people should go see it. It's
Yes,
really
absolutely.
exciting that when I show it to people that they really like it, which is great. So yeah, if you see it, like definitely give us a review on Letterboxd and IMDb. Like we need some reviews to pump up our profile a bit. It's just because it's such an odd release. I guess it's such a small release at the moment that it's just hard to get it in front of people. And if people
Oh, I
review it
see. I
or
see.
give it stars and things, it's more likely to sort of just kind of pop up. Because there's
Yeah.
this awful documentary um that's got the same title, which
Oh.
popping up. So if we can like become the number one slot instead of them, that'd be great. And it's
Oh, is
also
that like a never mind. We won't talk about that
it's
then.
it's a it's a bad faith. From what I've heard, it's a
Oh,
very
okay. That's
bad
what I thought.
faith documentary.
That's what
But
I
there's
thought.
also going to be this student filmmaker is making a film with the same name, and their movie sounds fantastic as well. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
It's very Cronenberg body horror, from what
Oh,
they've told me.
perfect.
So if you see a dead name in the future, um, like check theirs out as well. Like, I have to give
Okay.
them a shout out. Just
Nice.
because they came and asked if they could use the title. Like, I'm pretty sure you can't sue me, but we can just like agree that we can both use the title, right? I was like, I am fairly certain you can't copyright this phrase.
Right.
Um,
No, that's great that they asked you though. I think that's nice, you know?
and then it was just a nice conversation where they were like, cool. And, it was like, and then they shared my movie and I shared their page
Yeah.
because, and then again, their movie sounds really cool. If it's a Cronenberg body horror, like I'll be there.
No, it sounds
I'll
great to
fight.
me. Yeah.
I'll fight for, if they don't get distribution, I'll fight for them to come onto our distributor and do a double pack.
There you go.
That'd
Two
be
dead names.
amazing.
There you go. That's awesome.
Um, but yeah, I really recommend if you like weird and wonderful movies. And that was one of our aims as well. So I felt when I was making Simon, I wanted to try and make something that was very mainstream. And then I felt like I didn't quite get it because it's like, oh, you can see a mainstream movie where they've pumped millions of dollars into it, and get something. Um, but I actually got to rewatch Simon recently, and I was really entertained. I got to see it as an audience member
Yeah.
for the first time, and not as like the filmmaker who sees all the flaws.
Oh,
Um,
great.
I did forget that I was the body double in the opening.
Oh, you were?
Watching it with
I
people, and
didn't
they
know
was like, "That's my ass." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm the
you
body double."
acted in Dead Name too, though, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I forgot about that.
How
And
was
that
that?
too didn't show up. Uh, they cancelled last second. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do it. And so hard to keep a
Is
straight
it?
face.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I smile a lot on camera, and I realized it. So I ended up leaning into it for this character. It's like, let's just make it stilted and smile. The best bit was that little shot where I have the smile and it drops.
Yes, I
And
remember
like
that.
that was every frame we could use of it because the DP just burst into laughter. That moment. And everybody who saw it was just giggling. They're like, that is perfect. That's like such an offbeat, sinister moment. It's like, what the fuck? Um, yeah, yeah, and then I got really terrified because I forgot that the scene ends with everybody dancing.
Oh
And I was
yeah,
like,
that's right.
oh, I have to dance on camera. So the camera's gonna be from like in front of my character. We're gonna cut to everybody else in this scene.
That's awesome though. And so I hope maybe we'll see you in future movies as well from Blue Glass,
Yeah,
depending on the situation.
I always want to cast myself and stuff. I'm always happy to like make a fool of myself on other people's things. It's just I always get like nervous just beforehand and then really like nervous in the editing. I'm like, oh God. I know there's like
But
limitation. I'm not a grand actor, but I could Tarantino my way through it.
sure, sure. And I know
I think
lots of directors will do that.
mm,
And I think that's it's cool to watch. I mean, even David Lynch did that several times.
yeah. So that was another one where I was like, well, if Lynch can do it, and his performances are weird and wonderful, and I love them for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I can
they're
just lean into
wacky.
that if I get the right project. Because I always write these movies as if I'm going to star in them as well.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I'm always like, I need a really good actor for this part. Maybe I could take this other part, and I start like beefing up everybody. It's like, you know what? The bartender sounds good. Like everybody else needs to be really good at this. Like the bartender, it doesn't matter if I like smile all the way through that or whatever.
I love that. Are you gonna be the bartender in Love and Vengeance?
uh, am I in Love Adventures? No, but I'm in a cafe, like a background patron. There's a scene where
Oh,
they
okay.
hold up two characters hold up a cafe, and
Okay.
I put myself in the corner. So I can at least
Nice.
be partially in it.
So we have Love and Vengeance is in post-production, is that right?
Yeah. So yesterday I literally got the sound and music mix through to check. So I
Oh,
haven't checked it
awesome.
yet. So that's very exciting. And that one's more of a revenge heist movie. So
Okay.
taking a bit of like female revenge movies and a heist movie sort of idea and mashing those together um, as if they're a bit of like if Reservoir Dogs was kind of like that.
Okay, well that's that sounds pretty cool though. I like that you are always pushing yourself to try something new,
Hmm.
and to keep building your art and keep building your collaborations with people. And it just seems like you have such fun doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I love it. And so for that one, I was like, this might be the last movie that I don't get a huge amount of outside funding for. So it might be the last time that I can do everything I want without like negotiating stuff. And that's not always a
Okay.
bad thing. So, and I was like, I'm gonna make at least one movie that's not a horror film. Because if I get pigeonholed into horror, be happy as can be. You know?
Sure.
I could do that forever because you can do anything in the horror genre, you know?
Exactly.
Horror
That's why
genres,
we love it.
yeah, it's so beautiful. You can make crazy art house, you can make something really sentimental, you can make something cheap and cheerful, you can do it all. So if I end up getting pigeonholed in that, that's fantastic. But I can say I at least did one thing outside of it, you know? And even
Yeah.
then, that might be a stretch. There's a lot of like influence still
But
in
we know,
there.
and horror has like so many connections to other genres, and there's like even in some movies that are considered romance, there's elements of horror in some of them.
Yeah,
Like Titanic is horrifying to me. There's
right.
that concept would be truly terrifying. The concept of freezing to death while you're suffocating underwater is really horror. So
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
there's horror in all of it, but
Yeah, I
um,
think it doesn't take a lot to stick a lot of things under the horror banner. So
right,
it's like people argue, oh, Jurassic Park's a kids' film. It's like it's still a horror film.
yeah,
It is literally
sure.
dinosaurs eating people. Like it's a
Yeah,
monster
that's not
movie.
normal. That's not just
Yeah.
that's not healthy for anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get eaten by dinosaurs, people.
Although
Um,
there's a maybe this is the horror fan inside of me when I was a kid. It was like I kind of want I would rather die by dinosaur eating me than die of old age. Maybe that was like my weird fantasy as a kid.
I was the other side. I never want to get eaten. That seems crazy. Like, what would the experience be? Could I die instantly? Then that'd be okay. But do I feel the throat crush me? Like, do
Oh,
I
you
get
would feel
stuck in a
it.
stomach of acid? I'm like, God damn it.
Oh, I didn't think about the acid. That's not fun. That's not very good at the end.
It was the Star Wars the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi that always got me thinking about that. They're like,
Oh
you'll be
yeah.
digested over 1,000 years.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. And, oh,
and when I got older, I
insane.
was like, wouldn't I just die in 3 days of like thirst? And then
Yeah,
there's
over a
like some
thousand years, you're gonna maybe they have some like preservation embalming
uh,
fluid for you.
I just saw some Star Wars lore that's like, oh, the way the Sarlacc works, it's like you become assimilated kind of, so you feel yourself digest, but you're still like conscious and
Oh.
part of it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's horrendous.
So it's like a oh, okay. Well, oof. I didn't know that about the Sarlacc. It's like
No.
all right. Okay, so what about the Sarlacc? We'll end it on the Sarlacc.
What was the
You
question?
have we were talking about love and vengeance.
Oh yeah.
Love and vengeance. Any final thoughts about anything?
Yeah, so Love and Vengeance is still in the mix. Any luck, like later this year, we'll have trailer and things popping up for it. It should be a really cool um little movie. Again, it's like a heist female revenge thriller. Could be a romance movie at the same time as well, actually. Think
I'm
about it.
excited.
Again, love is a big theme in it.
What do
Um,
you think if Simon and Nia were to face off, who do you think would have the upper hand
oh, I'd say Nia's got the upper hand because Nia's a
easily?
professional.
Yes. Simon
Simon,
is, do you think? Oh, sorry.
yeah, Simon, I was trying to rate Simon as if like, what if somebody is kind of an idiot and is a
Yeah.
serial killer, and it's just because like nobody puts the dots together that they get away from it. Like,
Yeah.
I always imagine a few years he'd end up getting caught because someone would finally stick the dots together. In fact, if it was done these days, like a podcast would catch him,
Would have done it.
and
Yeah.
then the police would be like, yeah, yeah, it was us, totally. Um, but because I found there's something weird someone said at the time, it's like certain I guess it's almost similar to how the states are like in our counties, like sometimes word and minor crimes or things that you've done don't necessarily cross into the next county's police department.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here in the States, it's like, oh, you cross state lines and things, and it's like it's almost like you got a clean record.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's certain things that follow, obviously.
No, it is a
There's
lot
like
like
there's
that, I would say. Yeah.
still a way to disappear and say, oh, that was my sort of idea. Like he just moves about, and then people get a crime in one town, don't put the dots together. It's the same guy doing it in another town because
Yeah.
again, left hand, right hand don't talk to each other.
But I'm excited if you ever are able to bring Simon back for Simon 2,
Mm.
Simon 2 Obsession. I hope that that gets made someday because I just love Simon.
Yeah, we'll see. 'Cause, I had a script. That Silent Hill session is again like a weird credit that shouldn't be there. One of the actors put it
Right.
up, and then IMDb never took it down. So it's like it's just there. Like, we'll
Okay.
I'll try and capitalize on it someday. But anyway, maybe in the next couple of years we could think about it. It's now that like
Speaking. Yeah.
we're 10 years away from Simon. I think when it first came out almost.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
was there a short film? There was
oh yeah,
2013.
yeah, we did a short film 2013. It's kind of like a proof of concept.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but we thought, we just get festivals and things, and then we'll make a different movie. But this will be kind of fun, and that was my first time making a serious film. 'Cause my friends and things, we always made movies that were comedies. Because I was like, well, we're using a home camcorder, and we don't have
Yeah.
money, so if people laugh at it, then that's like the desired effect.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
Simon said, "Right, I'm going to do something serious. I'm going to try and write something very straightforward." And at the time, I was like, "What's the most serious things I can think of?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we'll do serial killing and put a bit of nudity in it because it has to be good if someone's going to turn up and be like, yes, I'm going to do this for you, strange person in your house."
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think everyone needs to check out Simon. Everyone needs to check out Dead Name. Absolutely. I talk about it on my social media. I'll continue to share it and things like that.
thank
And
you.
if you're able to get it on a streamer, then I'll talk about it then too.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we got Bluey. I have to shamelessly promote them.
yes, go
So
for it.
the green one is from Darkside Releasing's own website. It's like a cool, funky special edition cover. And this is the one from Amazon. So if you go to Amazon.com, uh, they use
That's
this cover,
nice.
which should be the same cover for the streaming as well. This
Okay.
red one, which fun fact, I'm actually in the shadow
That's you.
costume there. Yeah.
Oh,
So I made the
great.
front cover on this one. It's just Caspian on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who is that figure in the background? You have to watch the movie to find out.
Yeah.
Oh, also on
Yeah,
your
not
shirt, I
bad.
see. I
Oh
just
yeah.
noticed.
My
Oh, awesome. Okay.
and I have got this printed for me because she's like, you should have
Awesome.
shirts with your name with your movies on, then people can ask you
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
that'd be great for streaming and things. Like when I'm doing interviews and stuff, I have cut the
Yeah.
title off.
Well,
Leave the
but you
title at
put
the
his head
top.
on it. But people are like, what does that head mean? And then they'll go, oh, but then they'll
Hmm.
go look it up and watch the movie, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Warren?
I think that's it. Just thank you very much for bringing me back and talking about my movie. This has been
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. It's
Um,
so much fun to talk to you always.
Thank you. And then yeah, I hope to do it again sometime.
Great. And I will always have you back. Maybe we'll talk about Simon in particular, but whatever you're working
Yeah.
on in the future, send it my way. And I'm happy to promote the stuff that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, like now that I've rewatched Simon again, and like so many memories came back.
Oh,
If you
good.
do want to do an episode on it, I absolutely can do that now.
Oh, great. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Warren, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you too. Take it easy.